Okay, good evening. Tuesday, January 23, 2018. Monroe Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, 101 Mine Road, Monroe, New York, 10950. Welcome to everybody. Welcome back. Number one, we have to point out the exits, right to the back, right and the left. Next, we're going to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number two, we are going to review and approve the minutes for September 26, 2017.
So I'll talk to Valerie tomorrow.
Everybody should have it. One at a time.
Okay.
We'll do September 26th first, and we'll vote on that, then we'll do the other one separately. Ready for a vote? Ready for it? I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes for September 26, 2017.
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we'll do the minutes for October 24, 2017.
Nope.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of October 24, 2017. All in favor?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll go to the new business. First, Kimberly Patello, the concert. So, you bring back the cards for.
This is the first time there's
First
been
time.
no public hearing set yet.
Oh, okay. For discussion, okay. Okay, can you state your name and address?
Sure. Kimberly Patillo de Cossard, 1 Dara Court, Monroe, New York.
Okay. Now, will you please explain to the board. Everybody is seeing the application, but we need an explanation on.
Sure. So we are looking to put a shed on our property. Our property is a corner lot at the corner of Cromwell Hill Road and Dara Court. And so as a result, we technically have 2 front yards. The setback in our zone is 50 feet from the property line on both front yards. So we need to be 50 feet from Darrah Court and 50 feet from Cromwell Hill Road. The current placement of the shed, or the proposed placement of the shed, is only set back 35 feet from the edge of Cromwell Hill Road, 20 feet from the property line. So we would need your approval in order to place the shed in the proposed location. The proposed location is the ideal spot on our property. It's right off of our driveway, and given what we plan to store in the shed, kids' bikes, snow blower, etc., it's the most practical place on our property for the shed. Given the grade of our property, you see in the photos that I included, that it will not be an eyesore for the neighborhood. More importantly, it won't obstruct any traffic. It still meets town code for corner lot clearance where two roads intersect. And it's not out of character for the rest of our neighborhood to have a shed like this or the placement of the shed near the driveway. But given that we are a corner lot, we need permission in order to have it be not in compliance with the town setback for a front yard, although it's technically our side yard. And I will say that one of the questions is it self-created? We actually started prepping the spot for the shed already, but have stopped construction on that at the moment until we get, hopefully get approval to do that. So technically it is self-created, but again, there isn't another spot on our property that makes sense for the shed for us to get the practical use of it. And it also, any other spot on our property would be an eyesore for our neighbors. The spot that we've proposed it is downgrade, and it would be surrounded by trees and a retaining wall. So it actually is the least offensive to our neighbors to put it in that spot.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So you said you already started some of the
You
work
can
on
see
that.
in the pictures there, we cleared that land, we excavated, we put not a concrete slab, but gravel.
Okay.
And we started preparing a retaining wall. So to take that down and start over elsewhere would be expensive, and fully acknowledge that that was our mistake to not clear permits, et cetera, before we started work. But our contractor, didn't occur to him that we had two front yards. And so he was in compliance when he looked at the setbacks for side yards, thinking that was a side yard, not technically a front yard because it abuts a street.
Right, so your house is actually on Darrah Court.
Correct.
The Cromwell Hills what?
On the
if
side.
If it was a regular yard, it'd be a side yard.
Correct.
Okay.
Excuse me, Rob, pull your mic in a little
Okay,
bit.
sure. Yeah, you don't want to miss anything I'm saying.
I want to hear you.
And you said you had already cleared the location, so I assume you're not removing any of these trees that are there?
No,
As a result?
no, and in fact, we're going to probably, well, what we're doing other work on our property that we have permits for, a pool and so forth. We're planning to put trees even beyond that, so it would be completely covered from any of our neighbors' view, between the trees and the grade, and we are not removing the ones that you see there.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sure.
This might have been stated before. How long have you lived in this house?
We moved in 2011.
Okay. And I don't know the reasoning for now all of a sudden a shed. Is it just accumulation of?
I have 3 kids under 3 now,
Right.
so we have a lot of stuff. A lot more than when we moved in as a couple.
So, I mean, you could put this shed someplace where it met all the codes, but it'd be distant from the driveway. It'd be basically on the other side of your house.
It would be on the other side of our house, and in fact, given where our leach fields are, where electrical is, where our propane tank is, it would have to be at the very far end of our property, as far away from our driveway as it could possibly get. So
Okay.
it just wouldn't make sense. The other location would be you can maybe see is at the end of the driveway. But that would be abutting and coming very close to our neighbor's property. And then he would have a very large structure, directly next to his property line. And it also doesn't make a lot of sense because to put it there, we would lose parking in our driveway, and we would also have just a practical snowplow and snow removal issue and access issue.
So there's a stone wall. So if you go down your driveway, at the end of your driveway, you have a little grass, and then it's a stone. What is it? A retaining wall?
No, that's a generous characterization of there. It's just
Okay.
kind of like a very small pile of stones.
Oh, okay. Okay. Just field stones.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. But we are along those field stones planning to do a lot of plantings because right off of our driveway on the other side is our pool or our pool that will open in the spring. And so there'll be a fence around that, obviously. And then at the end of our driveway, we're going to put tree cover as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just wanted to point out, there's a letter from Ben Maldonado in there, and he also made notes on his chart for you.
Is it in the package that you gave us today?
Should be in the main package that was in that folder.
Hold on, okay. I saw that.
Ma'am, this is Dave McCartney, counsel to the board. I just had one technical question for
Sure.
you. I noticed on the application that you are requesting a setback, a reduction to 35 feet, whereas
Yeah.
the requirement's 50 feet. And I look at the survey, and it looks to me like the 35 feet is measured from the side of the shed to the edge of the roadway, but not to the
That's
property line.
right.
Is that correct?
Yeah, so when I wrote the 35, that's 35 feet from the edge of the road to the shed. If you're measuring from the end of my property line, it's 20 feet from the property line. So,
Is that exactly 20 feet, or?
yes.
Yeah, that's what Ben.
Yeah,
Took the
so,
building inspector.
okay.
yeah, so if it's from the property line, it's a request for 30 feet. If it's measured from the edge of the road, it's 15 feet.
Okay, so the board should just be aware of that in terms of what the request is. Technically, it's to the edge of the property line, it's not to the edge of the road. So the
So that's a
request for the
20
variance
30
is for
foot
20
20
feet,
feet.
whereas 50 is required.
Correct.
So it's a 30-foot variance being sought?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. 30 versus 15.
Yep.
But that's not to say that you can't consider the fact that that's not the edge of the roadway. It's certainly a factor that you can consider, but you also have to consider the likelihood or possibility that assuming that's a county, I don't know if it's a county road or
That's a town road.
a town road, that there's always the right to expand it, however unlikely that may be in the future. It's something to consider. That's why it has to be measured to the property line, not the roadway.
Got it.
Yeah.
What kind of construction will this require? Is it like a foundation or?
No,
It
no,
sits
it's
on
just, it's
piers?
just gonna sit, it comes it's a prefab
that
built shed, so
prefab.
it just goes on the gravel.
A wood type that comes finished, right?
Yes, with vinyl siding and a shingled roof. It'll look exactly like our house, which you probably can see in the pictures.
And like you said, it'll only, I'm sorry, like you said, it'll only be housing bikes.
Oh, yeah. Bikes, snow blowers,
Right, exactly.
storage, pool stuff, etc. Yeah.
No electricity or anything
No.
going to it?
No. It's not even practical to get electricity because we'd have to cut through the driveway.
Ben's letters in this packet, or is it?
Yes,
May I please address the attorney?
yes.
Mr. McCarty, as an alternate, am I allowed to ask questions during this procedure?
You're not unless you're called to sit.
Okay. Just wanted to- Okay. Thank you.
Good luck.
This is probably a refusal notice.
Mr. Chairman, the application appears to me to be complete, so we'll probably be ready for a public hearing if the board wishes to
Yeah, I
proceed
think
to the
this
next
is-
step and schedule for a public hearing.
Okay,
And it's, in regard to secret, it appears, it's certainly a type 2 action, so no action need to be taken in regard to secret.
okay. Any other question from the board members? Any other question from the board members?
No.
Okay, we're gonna schedule this for a public hearing for the next month.
Is there an option to do it without a public hearing?
No, unfortunately, it requires a public hearing under New York State Town Law.
Okay.
So I don't know what your typical procedures are here, it being my first day advising this board, but I would imagine that the next step would be for you to see the clerk, and so that the public hearing can be appropriately noticed and posted and so on.
Yeah, the next meeting here is February 27th.
Okay.
And I'll get the address with the 300 square feet from your house from the assessor's office.
Okay.
And I'll call you when everything is set, and you can come in and pick it up, and then you'll do your mailings.
Okay.
And they have to be mailed 10 days prior to the meeting.
Okay.
But you'll have
Can
it
they go
probably-
out before 10 days?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll
Okay.
probably have it by the middle of next week. I'll ask them for it probably by Friday.
Okay.
And they'll get it back to me, and then I'll call you when I have it all set.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much for your time.
Have a nice night.
Next item on the agenda for tonight is Edwards J. Squad.
Okay.
Who's in the back?
J. Squad Builders. Who's going to be speaking tonight?
Good evening. My name is Michael Morgante. I'm the engineer for the applicant, J Squared Builders Incorporated, and that's Mr. Paul Edwards, who's sitting next to me.
I'm sorry, could you spell your last name for me, please?
Morgante.
Thank you.
Okay, could you explain tonight to the board the reason you're here tonight?
Absolutely. The applicant is the current owner of two parcels located on the northerly side of Mountain Avenue. Mountain Avenue is a private road. The applicant would like to request a 288 variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, as we do not have road frontage on a public road, which is what is required in New York State Town Law. So the applicant is seeking to construct two single-family dwellings on the respective lots. We have provided the board with some plans that show what the anticipated site plan design would be for those individual lots. I'm not sure if the board has those plans in their possession. You may have abridged versions of them, which at least show the site plan layout. We had submitted these plans, I believe, back in March of 2016, just prior to the moratorium. But then I believe that the town went to a moratorium. Those plans may have been lost, and I think in the essence of time, some abridged, small, yes, have been submitted for you guys to review. But what you have in your possession is essentially what I'm looking at also.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see that would be sheet 2 according to my full plan set.
Yes.
You can see what we're doing there is we're seeking to extend the existing gravel roadway to provide access to the 2 lots that are being considered for the variance. Those lots are served by obviously a driveway that connects to them. We have actually designed one of the lots driveways to adequately handle fire truck access. I'm not sure if you have sheet 3 of 4 in your possession.
No.
I can show you on the mounted boards over there.
Okay. Just turn it a little bit more towards the board that everybody should be able to see. Oh, the whole easel. That's right.
So you can see right here on the fire truck turning diagram, this lot in particular right here has been designed as a wider driveway. We provided a turning diagram to show that fire trucks can actually adequately pull in and pull out of that driveway and essentially perform what's called a K-turn. So that this could access these 2 lots in case there's a need for a fire emergency or any emergency, ambulance emergency or whatever may be the case. We've also shown you another plan here, which is for the Mood and Sewer Commission. It's a sewer easement plan. We've also provided an erosion sediment control plan on this little diagram right here. We're also showing some dry wells that will have to capture runoff from the rooftops to minimize any excess stormwater runoff that would be generated from at least those rooftops. The sites will be served by individual drilled residential wells, and again, we'll connect to the force main, which is probably located somewhere in this area. We'll need to get some as-builts from the sewer, from the Moon Sewer Basin Commission in order to get a better idea where that is. It's worth noting that this applicant has been before this board before and has actually done the development on the other side of these parcels here on Catskill Avenue. And on that particular set of plans, we proposed something very similar to the board at that time, which have now been constructed for quite some time, over a year or 2.
Yeah, the last CO was done 2 years ago, actually.
Yep. And so, we're confident that what's shown here before the board will actually satisfactorily work because, well, we've done it before on the other side on Catskill Avenue.
Similar circumstances.
Very similar circumstances, similar lots, similar development, similar everything.
If I might interrupt, was there a 280A variance required and granted in regard to that application as well?
Yes, they were. Yep, 280A variances were requested and granted. That's essentially in a nutshell what you're looking at here with what's proposed before this zoning board of appeals. At that point, I would turn to you guys for any questions or comments that you may have, and I'd be glad to address anything.
So one question I had for you was the need to widen the driveway on the one lot.
Correct.
And why a similar need wouldn't take place on the second lot.
So the idea is that the fire truck could essentially, if it needed to pull up to this last lot, just pull up to the front of it, fight the fire from this road point right here, then back up, turn back into this driveway, and K-turn back out. So you really only need one of the 2
Right.
to be able to service the fire truck in order for it to turn around.
Right, because you need to turn around so it doesn't enter the main road backwards.
Exactly right.
So
One of the 2 is more than satisfactory. For that.
We did that on the other road too, the exact same
Yes, what we did on the other lots also.
Was
I think
one of
we
the
did
2.
it on
The second to last one
second to
also.
last one also.
Same way.
Yep.
Put it over towards the end of the. Sure.
Now, the force main you mentioned, that's for the sewer. Is there a lift station there, or what?
Yeah, I have pump stations that are shown. There's a pump station that's shown right here and right there. On the subsequent detail sheet, I believe it's sheet 4, I have typical standards that the Moodna Basin Commission likes to see.
Okay.
And it's the same exact stuff that we specified for.
So these would be tied into that?
They would
Okay.
tie
Okay.
into it,
Okay.
correct. And we would go to them and get the required permits in order to connect.
We have sewer permits in place already.
Actually, I apologize, we do have sewer permits already in place
Okay.
for them.
They require inspection of the work done.
Correct.
Would you be able to tell me on the road before these lots, is it people live there already? Is it built houses?
4 out of the 5 lots are.
Okay. And
If you go to your existing conditions map, it should be the first sheet, you'll see some lots that have wells on them. Those wells will be the ones that kind of tell you which ones are actually have houses. So,
Okay, so these
I'll see if I can guide you. a little bit.
adjacent
yeah, I
lots.
see.
Center.
What's the condition of that road
That's what I meant.
until those lots?
You wanna comment on that? I mean, it's an existing gravel road. It's been there for a long time.
How wide is it?
I believe it is approximately 15 feet or so. It kind of widens and narrows in some spots, but it's approximately about 18 feet wide.
I noticed there's on the existing conditions plan, there's a ditch running through the, I guess is that the westernmost lot? Yeah. on
Yeah,
Chester. What, is that just a low, or is it have water in it? How's
Yeah,
that care-
when we did work on the lots that are on the easterly side of these, there were some ditches over there also. They don't even appear to be seasonal ditches because there was nothing that was really ever in them. I think they just, I couldn't really comment on where they come from. They're not springs, they're not seeps, not that we know of. When they're out there, they can obviously relocate that. It would be pretty easy to just either reroute it between the two dwellings or to reroute it to the north of the northerly dwelling and around the back.
Yeah, the reason I asked, it's an obvious feature there, but then I noticed there's an earthen berm there. I'm just wondering if somebody was having water issues, that they were redirecting the water. I'm not sure what the purpose of that berm is, but.
It was a planting berm for privacy. I
Oh,
live in the
was?
house.
Okay.
And that water does, I'm on the downhill from these lots, so it's in my best interest to make sure there is no water problems down there, because I'm on the bottom of the hill. And there hasn't been, I've been there for 2.5 years now, and I haven't had, no water runs through these ditches or anything.
Okay, so that berm was for planting,
Planting,
for
and
landscaping.
trees on top of it, yeah.
Okay.
That's privacy. Not for water.
That's one good thing that you live there. You make sure that the water will go in the right.
And I'm the lowest lot on that whole thing over there, so it was in my best interest to do everything correctly.
One maybe hyper-technical thing that I noticed in the application is that the applicant is listed as J squared, or some J squared entity Inc., but I also noticed that the deed that you submitted looks like it was deeded out from J squared to you individually, and I
I
do
think
see
I-
that you signed signed the application as owner.
Right.
So can you just explain what's going on there?
I signed as, I'm the principal of J Squared Builders. It's
Figured that,
it's
yeah.
only me.
It's you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just had to sign the appropriate spots where it was J Squared Builders. So it hasn't changed hands other than the lots that were conveyed to other people I sold houses to, and then to myself in my own personal name from J Squared Builders.
Okay, so you individually I'm sorry, your name is
Paul
Paul.
Edwards.
Yeah, you own them individually. The applicant is technically listed as J squared as the developer who's going to develop the properties.
Correct.
Understood.
Right.
So the 288 variance is essentially a variance being sought to just connect to the private road that's already in existence? Because like it's serving these lots further down the road already, right?
Correct.
So it's just a variance to be able to hook up from each of these individual lots to that private road?
Correct.
Okay.
How many of those lots along Mountain Avenue, if any of them are already developed with homes?
4 out of the 5. There's 5 lots, you know, for the main road, which I think is Monroe Street, and 4 out of 5 are developed.
They already have houses on it?
Yes.
If I'm looking at the map, it's the 2 on the end, it looks like, is it lots 13 and 14 are the subject of this application?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking at that, you got 14 on your left, then 13. Are you able to just identify which of the ones off to the right or to the south of those?
So
Have houses?
12 has a well on it, so that must have a house.
Right, 12 is a house. 11 is the vacant lot.
Thank you.
10 has a house also. 9, you don't show a well, but there is a house there.
There's a driveway, though, that identifies it's being occupied.
Right, and then there's another house on the corner. And that's the closest public road.
So-
Beyond that last house, number 8, I guess.
Presumably, for each of those other houses, the 288 variances would have to have been granted as well, I would imagine. Did you have any connection with those other houses? Or?
They've been there for a long time.
Okay. Is it the same thing on the other side of the street, directly across the street? Are there homes on those as well, all along there?
Yes, yep, those are the backyards of all their homes along there.
The primary access to an actual public road, which way is it? Is it off to, I take it I'm looking at it, is it oriented north, just as it's north up and?
North is just about following the dividing line between the town of Monroe and town of Chester line.
Okay.
So that's
So it's almost directly on.
Yeah, almost.
north,
He has a
south,
overhead
west.
picture here.
So
that you can
the actual connection to the public roadway.
would be to
I
the
see.
would be to the east or
To the
easterly.
east. Oh, I see. So the Chester Street is just a paper street at the end.
Correct.
It's not an actual, it's not in place.
Correct.
So okay, I understand. Now I see the aerial.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
This is-
what we would like to see, in order for us to be able to think about granting, we would like to see a letter from the fire department that they could access that road. You propose a very good turnaround, but I would like to see if they're comfortable getting there. It's a dirt gravel road. I don't know how wide it is, and I would like to see somebody from some notice from the fire department to tell us that it's okay with them to get there. That's the first concern.
That aerial shot you was referencing?
And then the town of Chester, I don't know how it's going to work. The town of Chester, it's adjacent with them, what they have to say.
My understanding is that through SECRA, this board would probably circulate these plans to the town of Chester clerk and have them disseminate that information from there. And this board would also probably need to also forward these plans to Orange County Planning for a
That's
GML
right.
referral.
Yeah, because it's
239.
adjacent with the
Yep.
different.
That's right. The GML has to go to both county planning and to Chester.
Yes. And then we would like to see about the drainage, whatever the permits, copy of that, to see that it's properly
You mean the
addressed.
sewer?
The sewer, yeah, and the drainage, to make sure that
Well, the drainage design is on the plans.
On the plan,
The drainage
okay.
design has been engineered. It shows calculations for how the dry wells have been sized.
oh, okay.
And they've been sized accordingly to what we've actually designed prior
Okay,
in our prior submittal to this ZBA for the application on Catskill Avenue.
okay. Now another concern, the maintenance of that road, who takes care of that? The snow removal and repairs, whatever. Is there an agreement between
There's a verbal agreement. They don't have a written agreement. I've checked with the neighbors over there. They've had a verbal agreement. All the houses are probably more than 50 years old, and some of the residents have lived there that long, and they said they're not willing to sign on to a written agreement. They're content with the way things have been since they've lived there. But I'd be willing to create one for the final two houses and put it in their deed
Yes.
that they're responsible to join in whatever, agreement is in place.
Yes, we would like, okay.
Do you have a basic understanding of, as to what their verbal agreement is?
That it's in their best interest that they collectively pay to get the road cleared
They'll
from
chip in
snow.
and hire a
Right.
contractor
And
or
it's
something.
a similar thing to the other road that I live on, and I personally take care of it over there. And it's not a written one over there either, it's a verbal. But, it's in everybody's best interest, so it's,
That's something that's more in the planning board than us.
Yeah, I guess that's the question. Is this something that's requiring planning board approval, or no?
No.
It's just purely a building permit stage?
just a
and
private
only
road
for the
variance.
280A, and that's
Right.
it? Yeah.
right, I meet all the setbacks and everything, right? We have
Yeah.
sewer.
Yes, you do. It's actually in the SR 15 district, but it's subject to the section in the code. Well, let me flip to the page. Section 57-39D, because the lots were created before September 1954, somewhere about that date, and so for those lots that are that old, there's different zoning criteria that are appropriated for it. So that's where that zoning code of compliance table comes from.
No, I don't think so.
Any other question?
No.
I just backing up to what we were talking about before. So this won't be going in front of the planning board?
No.
With even with all the drainage calculations and
No, I think that's going to be a building department issue
Okay.
in regard to zero net runoff and all the things that the building inspector would typically be looking at in order
Okay.
to grant a building permit or not grant it as he sees fit. The only reason it's before any land use board at all, other than just a straight building permit, is because of the access issue with
Okay.
with the 280A issue. It's not, the subdivision was granted, I presumably, I think you said, half a century ago or more.
Correct. Right.
And for single-family homes, I don't think that there's any requirement for site plan approval at the planning board.
Okay.
So it's just simple construction of 2 single-family homes.
Right. It would be a matter of the building inspector's jurisdiction to review the plans.
right. Okay, so he'll be reviewing.
Yeah.
Okay.
He'll be certainly
Okay.
reviewing them pursuant to state code and town code and so on, all applicable specifications.
Okay. So it's gonna go for a public hearing, right?
We'd like to. Is it possible to consider scheduling a public hearings, and we would need to provide these documents at that public hearing? Or
If possible,
I think we could probably get the letter from the fire department.
Yes,
I
I
mean-
had to do it on the other street. It wasn't-
So we already have the sewer permits. I mean, we would need to hear back from the county and the town of Chester potentially. But obviously, the
But
public
that-
hearing could
that's-
be left open if we don't hear back from them in time.
yes. Yeah.
But would this board consider making a motion at this meeting to hold a public hearing for the next month?
Yes. We're gonna put this for the public hearing for the next month.
Okay.
You'll do the mailings and the
Yep.
public notice and everything, and we'll do it the next month.
Sure.
Af-
Right, and like you said, the only issue is going to be, is their time, because the GML referrals have to go out to county planning and to the town of Chester, and they're going to have 30 days from then to respond, and so the board can't take action on the application until those 30 days have elapsed. You get to take into account any comments they may have and either accept them and incorporate them into the resolution, or reject them or override them, whatever you may need to do.
Correct.
That's only gonna happen after the public hearing.
More than likely, because the 27th is the next meeting, is that it?
Yes, February 27th, as long as it's approved tonight, will be the next meeting.
Right, so it's at least possible, I'm not sure how quickly you could get the GMLs out, it's at least possible that they can get out, theoretically anyway, and have 30 days be up by the time the public hearing occurs, and we'd have their comment letter, if any, in hand, it's possible. But if, again, as the gentleman stated, if they're not in, you can leave the public hearing
Open, yes.
to accept any comments and take them into account, and then consider the matter at the following meeting, once you have those comments in hand.
Okay. So we're set for next month's public hearing for the next month.
Thank you. Thank you for your time tonight.
Good
Well,
evening.
I'll get the addresses from the assessor's office and I'll call you.
Great.
You're welcome.
Next thing we have on our agenda is to approve the meeting schedule for 2018.
Looks good.
I actually won't be available for the 27th.
Okay.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the schedule.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If you know of any specific dates that you're not going to be available, if you can let me know, because we do have 2 alternates this year that I need to make aware of to make sure they're here at the meetings when necessary.
Okay. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
We approved it, they're gonna use it.
For a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.